I'm Roy from Roy's Garage. Today I'm going to be working on a 1999 Toyota 4Runner 3.4 liter automatic. I'm going to show you how to replace the front brake caliper, pads, and rotors. These are the tools I'm going to be using today to do this job. Hood prop, rubber mallet, water pump plier, long nose plier, 17 millimeter gear wrench, a 17 millimeter wrench, 10 millimeter wrench, 10 millimeter tubing wrench, flat tip screwdriver, air gun, Phoenix brake flusher, a vacuum hose I use to plug up the brake line so the fluid won't come out, brake clean, penetrating oil, bottle of water with hole in it, ceramic grease, anti-seize, and my suction ball. These are the parts I'm going to be using today to do this job. Front calipers, front rotors, front brake pads, and some .3 brake fluid. So I'm going to be removing this caliper. They call this a fixed caliper. It doesn't slide. So I'm removing the caliper. I'm going to be disconnecting this brake tubing from the caliper, and I'm going to be removing this clip that mounts the hose. So let's take this guy off, this clip. Removing this tubing. So I'm going to be plugging it up so the fluid doesn't come out. So I'm going to be removing these two bolts. This one mounts the caliper to the spindle. So I'm going to be removing the rotors. So I'm going to be shooting some brake clean on my rotor. I'm removing the oil from the rotor. Okay, so before I put my rotor on, I'm going to be putting some anti-seize around the hub. So I'm going to be putting on my rotor. And then I'm going to be putting two nuts on. Just so the rotor doesn't wobble on the hub. I'm going to be putting on my caliper, but first we're going to be lubricating it with some ceramic grease, and put some on the piston. You don't need too much, just a little. So I'm going to be putting on my caliper and putting on these two bolts and tightening it up. Okay, so I'm going to be screwing on my tubing to the caliper. So now I'm going to be putting this clip to hold in my brake tubing. Now we can tighten up the tubing. If you notice, these two pads has these wear indicators. The one with the two goes on the inside, and then the one with the one goes on the outside. But if you notice, this rotor is spinning counterclockwise, so this tab gotta be on the top, on the leading edge. If your pad has the wear indicator on the bottom, then the bottom one is for the passenger side. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lube it up a little. You don't need very much. Just lube it up and then slide it in. Okay, so now we're going to be putting in the pins. Just put a little lube on the pin. The pin, the spring, and the lock all came with the caliper. So just use the hardware that came with the caliper. Okay, so slide this guy in. Okay, so we're going to be putting the anti-rattler clip this way. This part is going to be on the bottom. So I'm going to be lubricating the bottom pin. If you notice, like these pins, there's like holes in the pin. I'm going to be putting this wire in to lock it. So for now, we're going to be putting these pins in. And this wire, we're going to be putting it into the hole on the pin. And then this part, we're going to be hooking it into the hole on the caliper. Just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to be gravity bleeding the brake system. First, open up the brake master cylinder, the reservoir cap. Open that up, and then just open up your bleeder screw. And then wait till the fluid comes out. So now the fluid is coming out of the bleeder. So with a rubber mallet, just kind of tap on the caliper. In case there's any air bubbles in there, it might break it up. Okay, so we're going to be locking it up. And now we're going to be flushing out the brake system. Okay, so I'm going to be removing the old brake fluid from the brake master cylinder. So with my suction ball, I'm going to be sucking it out. And there's a screen in here, I got to remove that. Okay, so now I'm going to be flushing out the brake system. I'm going to be pumping fresh fluid from the caliper up to the master with my Phoenix brake flusher. So we're going to be opening up the bleeder screw. So now I'm going to be pumping fresh fluid so it uses about half a bottle per wheel. Okay, so I'm going to be removing the old brake fluid again. So we're going to be filling up the reservoir. So I'm going to be cleaning out my screen with some brake clean. So putting my screen back in. Okay, putting the cap back on. So now I'm going to bleed the brakes, but first we're going to start up the engine. Now I'm going to be pumping the brake pedal up and down, no more than halfway until I feel pressure. Okay, that feels good. Now I'm going to be pressurizing the brake system. I'm going to be using my hood prop, one against the brake pedal, and the opposite end will be against the seat. So I'm going to be opening up the bleeder screw to get the air out. Okay, we're going to do it one more time. So pressurize the brake system and then open up the bleeder screw again. Okay, that looks good. So lock it up. I'm going to be shooting this down with some water, because brake fluid is water soluble. Now with my air hose, I'm going to be drying it off. So we're going to be pressurizing the brake system one more time, holding it for about 15-20 seconds. Now we're going to be checking for leaks. So now we're checking for leaks from the bleeder screw and from this tubing, and it looks dry. It's all good to go. So that's how you replace a front brake caliper, pads, and rotors. If you have any questions, comment below. Make sure to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Aloha.